and we were in Valencia, and they sequestered our phones, and we signed documents of confidentiality.
A45s, the 2020, so this is the 4th generation A-Class, but the first to actually be in Canada.
Yes.
W177. We have A250s, we have A220s, we have A35s like we were talking about earlier, but the A45S has had a lot of exposure when it comes to its performance. There's a lot of hype behind it.
Yeah.
It allegedly has drift mode. Have you had a chance to experience this model yet, or have you seen it before?
You know, it's interesting enough, I haven't. We were, this pandemic put a stop on our training, so I was supposed to head to Madrid May 1st for a 4-day program with AMG and Germany and Canada with my Canadian contingent, and we were supposed to test a lot of these vehicles, but so I haven't had a chance to drive the A45S. I certainly follow a lot of these car fanatics, Car Wow and a couple other guys, and they're just crazy about this car.
Yeah.
And it is like but again, like, you know, I look at value. You're really energetic about a huge horsepower. I like good value, and you know, the entire A lineup. A lot of people say, well, why didn't Mercedes do the A lineup? And you'd mentioned the A220, and for a lot of people that don't know, an A220, that's about 190, 180 horsepower, 4-cylinder turbo engine, very fuel efficient, but that's only in the coupe. So to clarify, it's not in the hatchback. But to get back to your question about driving the A45, not yet.
Okay.
But I hope to get my hands on that car. So Mercedes Canada, please
get
that training program and get me back to Madrid.
He's begging you.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so small thing, because we've seen a few models get delayed in shipping, you know, including certain models we're about to talk about. But like you were saying about the CLA 45S earlier, is that, you know, it came before it was officially released by the government.
That's right.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, you know, there's several components. You know, everyone's kind of salivating at the chops to get these cars as quick as possible, and trust me, we as dealers want to have these cars delivered to the consumers as quickly as possible, and with all the much hype and anticipations. In Canada, you know, we're still deemed as a small market, so there are basically 3 sanctioning bodies to make these cars compliant, and we follow the USA because of the sheer volume. So, example, the state of California would sell more cars than the country as a whole, the entirety. So they have a lot of clout, and their governing board is called CARB, which is the California Air Resource Board. So that's one body. Second body is the U.S. Again, I think it's DOT, the Department of Transportation. And so those 2 U.S. bodies, they test their cars, and Canada follows suit with them. So if those cars comply for their market share and emissions testing and safety, crash compatibility, bumper absorption and such, then Canada 99% follows theirs, and if they give it the green light, we bring them to Canada. The only catch, though, in Canada, our testing can be done in Halifax, and cars get delayed, and it can be months on end. I've seen cars that were supposed to arrive, you know, at XY time, and so, you know, I say to our buyers and consumers, with new models, it doesn't mean you're always going to be the first kid on the block to get it ASAP. Just, you know, we're held up by rules and regulations by the government, so very important.
Yeah, makes sense, but it's necessary, hey?
100%. That's the only way.
Yeah. Okay. One of those cars that might get dinged hard by those regulations is the AMG 1. That has had a lot of delays in production itself, but I mean, what they're doing is amazing. It's it's just a crazy car because there's only going to be 275 units. They're putting in AMG F1 technology into a road legal car.
Yeah.
It starts at $2.72 million US, and over 1,000 horsepower, max speed of over 350 kilometers an hour. It's just crazy, and I mean, I can imagine that one might get held up just because of emissions and regulations. Let's hope it's not for too long. But there is a big question around that model. Are we getting one at Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West?
Well, it's been the talk of the town. I've had a lot of car junkies approach me and say who's getting it, and I will say this, it is a very exclusive car. So we were able to, personally I was able to see the car.
Oh yeah?
Okay. Touch the engine, the cavity, the chassis, the brake systems, the tires, when we were at AMG training 18 months ago. It was 18 months ago, yeah, it was 18 months ago. And we were in Valencia, and they sequestered our phones, and we signed documents of confidentiality. It is a very unique piece, and it's only for the select few. There's no questions asked that when you're in the millions of dollars now. We used to talk about you buy $100,000 car, and that was like wow. And then we started going to $250,000, and now we're at 500,000, and now $1 million. And there's exclusivity when you're at that range. It's for very few select people. I will say this: they are coming to this part of the world, and you just have to be patient.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's a good clue, hey? All right. I'd be really excited to see one. I have not seen one yet, but that's cool. I didn't know you'd seen it.
Thumbs the word. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Has Mercedes ever had a product like this before?
I would say yes and no. I mean, they come out with cars that are kind of unicorn cars, but certainly not at this level. I mean, the research and development that goes into a car that's, $1 million plus, is really kind of something out of this world, almost stratospheric. But yeah, I mean, again, I go back to cars like the SLR when we launched that car in Canada in 2005. And in fact, in the Edmonton area, there were 2 sold, right, out of the dealership. This individual bought, and that's the one with the scissor doors.
Yep.
Right. That and then they came out with a 722. So yeah, it's like everything gets more costlier, and so the numbers in relative dollars, is scaled. But this is kind of unique. This Project One. Yeah. That's really neat.
Cool.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks for answering that. Coming back down to earth a little bit. We're about to see an E-Class refresh. Yeah, so it's currently in its 5th generation, W213.
Yeah.
E-Class has been the best-selling model in the Mercedes range ever since it started. So it's the #1 selling model of all Benzes.
Yeah.
So do you have any insight as to why that is? I believe it's one of your favorite models, if I'm not mistaken.
It is probably, it is my the favorite model next to the R129 of the SL series. But the E, why it has that notoriety worldwide, and then again, it's their top vehicle worldwide. So 3 years ago, I had a trip. I was in Amsterdam and had never seen this vehicle. And if people know me well, I'm crazy about CDIs and wagons, and we got into at the airport, and there was just a row of E-Class, and it was an E200 hybrid. And the gentleman hopped in the back with my travel mate, and I looked, and it had 1 million kilometers on it.
Holy.
But of course the windows were roll-up windows. It had that special MB text, Artico interior, very Spartan. Didn't even have a sunroof in the vehicle. So our cars are equipped a little differently here in Canada. They load them up, but the E-Class itself is it's a very well balanced vehicle. It's good size. It's they put a lot of money into R&D. I'm sure into the hundreds of millions. I have the numbers, but I just don't have it on the top of my head. And then of course they produced the E Coupe and then the E Convertible, which are just extremely stylish cars. And of course, during my tenure in my career, I kind of came at the end. But it was called the 300 TE, the wagon, and the 300 CE. I mean, these cars had pillarless doors, like the window frames. Now, just a very stylish car. And you move the needle forward to today's cars, like the 2020s in the showroom. They carry the same pedigree and heritage, where a lot of manufacturers don't stay true to the car. We did with the E-Class, and we put a lot of emphasis on again, technology and the refresh, and then most people would know at this point, the all-road. We're coming out with a Mercedes all-road edition where it's going to have the cladding, different bumper flicks and such, but the interior will still be very, again, high-tech. The very traditional Mercedes with those wide 12-inch screens spanning across, but they're also going to be using touchscreen.
Right.
So that's going to be part of the refresh.
Makes sense. Yeah. So I have seen that. So right now, the new E-Class refresh on the Cabriolet, it looks like it still has the old Cobra style with the dial under it, that interface, just because they couldn't fit it in with the sun or the roof controls, right? It was just too tight to fit the MBUX controls. But I do know that the coupe, sedan, and wagons, they're all equipped with the new MBUX controls. So we're super excited to see that on the E-Class refresh. It's seriously, it's a well-performing model. It's like,
hey Mercedes, great job, by the way.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah. We sold out of those in 4 hours. It was like a frenzy. It was crazy. Phones were ringing and people calling and dealers saying, you have XYZ, can we get them? I'm like, well, no, we're selling them to our market.